every day. Okay, so tell us a little bit about you. What's your background? Where did you grow up? What was that like?
Cool. So I grew up in Zimbabwe. That's where I'm from. I was there for 19 years, and then 2015, just sharing my age, 2015 I moved to Australia, Brisbane, to study at UQ. So I'm still studying now, studying civil engineering and business economics. So that's pretty much my background. I'm studying, and now I'm working at Bop Industries with Scott, and I've been doing that for a year and a half, a bit more than a year and a half, as a workshop facilitator and handling the Holograms side of the business. So that's sort of like a Spark Notes version of where Nonto came from and where she is now.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about that. How does that work?
Yeah, so what I'm doing now, so studying and working. Yep, so with Bop Industries we work with students, so primary school and high school students, teaching them about, the crux of it is entrepreneurship and how to start a business, but with a huge focus on digital technologies. And when I first started out, I was looking for a job, university student, need a little money, like things to do outside of class. And the roles really evolved over the time, because we first started out just doing like expos at the museums with the holograms, and now there's a lot more stuff that we're doing in the classroom, which is nice. And it's been a bit of a blessing, to be honest, because I realized that education was something I was really passionate about based on my background and the way that I'd grown up. And our mission is basically to give students more options while they're in school, because the curriculum is set out, and so you go to school and you learn the things that your teachers are going to deliver to you. And with our workshops, we're like, okay, you're learning all this really cool stuff in class, but let's make it applicable. We're learning all these things in business and in math and in physics, but let's start a business with something like that, think outside of the box. And that's something I definitely know I didn't have while I was growing up. My high school, which I attribute to who I am now, is a lot of very academic, all-girls school. It was actually a joke that used to run around like in the city I grew up in, that Arundel girls were all really academic, all doctors, lawyers, engineers, that sort of professional direction. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but I feel if I had more options and more sort of paths I could have taken, I probably may have ended up here, which is fine, but I could have ended up somewhere else. And that's perfectly okay as well. So I'm really enjoying the work that I'm doing, and sort of being a face for girls who want to go into STEM fields. I haven't graduated, which, I might not make it out, and that's fine. But I think just the process of making the decision is really important, because I've spoken to heaps of girls who come to like university expos, and they're like, I heard there are a lot of guys in engineering. I'm like, yes, but that shouldn't be why you're deciding to study engineering or not. I remember at some point I wanted to drop out of engineering, and having a chat to my mum. I was like, Mom, there's so many dudes in class. Like, I barely have friends. Like, it's really hard to relate. And she was like, surely that cannot be the reason why you want to drop out of engineering, because there are a few boys in class. Because I had been in an all-girls school for 6 years, and so I was like, I don't know what's happening.
That would have been a culture shock in and of itself.
Yes, and it was fine. I guess I'm still there now, 5 years in.
5 years in.
5 years in, yeah. And so, the work that I do is really important to me, just for giving other kids options, and I am where I am, and that's fine, and I'm doing the most with the resources I have now, but making their life more valuable while they're still making important decisions.
Yeah.
It's important to me.
Well, that kind of leads and segues really nicely into the question of the day, which is what's important to you and your life.
What's important to me and I think this is so funny, because I'm like, what did I say the last time?
Well, think about right now.
Yeah. I think right now, it's just being authentic, and just living in your truth and being honest about that. And there's so many people who have expectations of you and things that people want you to do, and it's not worth it if you're not happy. And that sort of ties back to the work that I'm doing now and the whole education thing, is because I found a lot of the time I was doing things because there was an expectation, like, okay, you're going through school and these are things you're going to have to do, and then, okay, life is planned out, now just following the path. but if you aren't happy with what you're doing, like what's the point of doing it, you know? I think we've come so far in the world and we have so much opportunity to be free and be happy, and it's about finding what those things are and figuring out who you are as a person. But a lot of people aren't trying to do that because there's so much noise in the world and in life. And so I think that's what's important to me now, especially for myself in my life, is just being authentic, and things that don't serve me and don't serve a purpose in my life probably shouldn't be in my space, and things that are adding and are helping me grow and be a better person for myself and to other people are things that I want, you know, in my space and in my area. And it would be nice if, I'm not telling people how to live their lives, but I think in a way that, like, being selfish in a way that makes you a better person, I think is good. Not selfish in a way that hurts other people, never that. But yes, I think that would be what's important to me right now. I don't know what was important to me those months ago, but I hope they match up.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do you get that?
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's all good.
Okay, so authenticity. So what does that look like to you in your day-to-day life?
My day-to-day life. I think, again, going back to like doing things that don't serve you or don't add value, you know, and just going with the motions, and sometimes doing things that are pleasing to other people or give other people a false expectation of who you are. And so something that I've learned over the years is I need to be honest about my capacity and like the things that I can do and how I can be available for people. And I've always been like a give person. Yes, I'll do it all to my detriment, you know. And now I have found I have to be authentic and be honest about who I am as a person and the things I am able to offer to other people. So I want to be there for you. Yes, I do. And I want to do all these amazing things for 10,000 different people, but I can't. Like, that's what's true. I can't. So for the sake of keeping, you know, healthy and keeping my mental health in a good place and making sure that when I do things, I'm doing them well. At the moment, it's just knowing the things I need to do and who I want to be as a person and the kinds of things I want to give to the people in my life, you know. Not give false expectation and being like, oh, I'll do all these wonderful things for you and then it's time to deliver and I can't. Being true to myself as well, so anything that I know doesn't align with my values is something that will cause me to compromise who I am as a person and how I've been brought up. Definitely things that now I don't compromise on. You know, now and then you do compromise on certain things, but values, I think things that give a false version of yourself to people that later on when you're like, no, actually, this is how I view the world and this is how I see things, and people are like, oh no, but you were doing this and you said this about that, and just so, you know, my track record stays consistent. I think that's how I'm living my life day to day now, is making sure that, if someone, like two people meet and they talk about Nonto, like, yeah, no, this is the kind of person that she is, and that stays true for all the little areas in life that I'm going to touch, or the little corners that I'm going to leave my presence in. But yes, I think.
Have you had any experiences lately where you felt like you were going with someone else's flow and not your own?
Yes. So I find myself, because of uni and the work that we do here, you do end up working with, like, in groups, you know. And group work, as much as there's all of this amazing, like, management literature on group work and how to manage it and all these things, but the truth is you'll come together and there'll be a lot of different opinions, and sometimes you might not agree with someone's opinion, and my natural default is to fall back a little bit because I don't like confrontation. As a person, I'm just like, okay, I'm feeling a little friction here, I'm just going to fall back. But sometimes there are things that I know are true and are factual, and being able to speak up when I need to, and being like, okay, no, I like that, I'm not quite sure of, maybe, I think just being more open and being open to criticism, but also being confident with sharing my opinion about things. I've definitely been in situations where I've felt the need to fall back a little bit because I'm sort of overwhelmed by the presence of other people's characters and and because I don't want to come across as that like disagreeable or anything. I did a personality test, and I'm in the 96th percentile of agreeable people. So I agree with 96 people in a group of 100, and the other 4 we might have a little bit of friction. And I see myself trying to be like, oh no, like why don't we agree? And just being okay with that. Not everyone is going to think that like life is sunshine and rainbows. But it's something we're working through, to be honest. Something I'm working through and trying to make sure that whenever situations like that come up where I feel like, maybe my opinion isn't needed here, being like, no, but it matters, and speak up. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome that you had that experience, but it's awesome that you're being so open about it and that you're so self-aware about it. A lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic.
Cool.
So I'm going to ask you this question again. I know I asked you before, but before I asked you what's important to you in your life, has anyone ever asked you that question before?
No, never. It's never something I've had to think about.
Does that surprise you?
Yes.
Why?
I don't know, because then it just sort of boils down to then, like, what's the purpose of everything that we're doing in life for everyone? Because everyone seems to be hustling. We're all hustling, we're doing something. And so if you want to sit down and have a conversation with someone and be like, okay, so why are you doing the things that you're doing? You find that out, okay, but of all those things, which ones are important? And we're just not having enough of those conversations, you know, because I think, again, going to people doing things out of expectation and not because of like passion and things that they genuinely want to do. And so when like hearing this question, it's like, oh, okay, I definitely have to reflect on my life and how have I oriented myself in the world to achieve the things that I want to. And it's like, oh, am I doing that? Sort of like linking back to that question. And I just feel like not a lot of people are asking the question or thinking about it in that way. And when you do ask the question, you're like, oh no, I'm surprised because I don't know why we don't keep coming back to this, because I do think the world would be such a better place if most of us did things that were important to us, you know, align yourself with something that's valuable and like work towards that, and in some, even if it's not making the entire world better, but you're making something better, even if it's just your little corner of the world, then that's perfectly okay. But we're all just trying to pay bills and eat, and it's like, I don't care how I do that, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's survival, isn't it?
It is.
Whereas what I'm hearing is that you really don't want to survive, you want to thrive.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to put that on my LinkedIn.
Great. Along with the video.
Yes.
Okay, so if you think about the people in your life, who do you think would benefit from you asking them this question?
I think I remember I said that last time. I think my mom. My mom. Just thinking about her life and I guess how she's oriented herself and where she's at now and where she's come from, because I know there is a lot of sacrifice in her life, and in my mind I want to be able to answer that question for her, because I know she's super like hands-on with us, so I would think that the most important thing to her would be her children, but I'd almost want to ask her that question and like remove us from the equation, or like make us not the locus of her life, and see what her life would look like if she were to make something else a priority, as we've always been a priority. So what sort of moving her forward, because she's definitely one of those people who I feel is doing things because they have to be done and not necessarily because she cares about them, you know, because I mean, we're kids and we're here now, and so she has to take care of us. But outside of her, the expectations of her role as our mother, you know, what's important to her? Is it family? Is it keeping healthy? Is it her relationship with my dad? Is it her relationship with us? Is it something that she wants to work on? Her relationship with her siblings, you know? Yeah, and like when you first asked me this question, my grandma was still alive, my mama's mom, and now she's passed away. And now I went to see how her world has shifted, and how she views life now that there's been that loss in the family. I think we all sort of are trying to be there for each other, but it's not something we're used to. So it's like I'm there for you at a distance. Yeah, so mi madre is the one who I would want to ask what's important in her life. Yeah.
Beautiful. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't know. Because these questions I'm kind of like, oh, this is interesting. No one's asked me this before. No, I don't know. I think just, yes, one thing. I know I've been like, yes, chase the things that make you happy. I read a book. I'm in the middle of reading a book. It's Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari, the guy who wrote *Sapiens*. And this one chapter, like a page or something, where he talks about happiness. And I found that to be so true, that happiness isn't like a constant, like you aren't happy all the time. It's a fleeting thing. So you do things to be happy, and then it goes away, and it's almost like a drug, you know? Like, I enjoyed that feeling, I want to do that again, you know? But in doing that, I think finding things that give you genuine, wholesome happiness and keep you on like almost like a constant level of contentness, or not happy contentness where, you know, things aren't going too bad, because I feel like sometimes we chase the wrong things, and then it's the super high of happiness, and then and then you hit a low, and now that uphill thing, the climb to get back to happiness sometimes can be a very savage sort of like, I need to be happy again, and you're just doing too much. So just understanding that, you know, happiness will come and go, and that's okay, but are you fine? Like, are you content with your life? Is there, you know, little areas that you need to work on? And that's fine, but just not too much of this thing, I think, in thriving instead of surviving. But yes, I don't know, like finding equilibrium, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a better physics description of what I'm trying to say.
Well, I guess think of it like this. If your life is like this, you're dead.
This is true. This is true. Life does have highs and lows.
It does. It totally does. It's just something that popped into my head.
This is true.
So is it bad that it goes up and down? Or maybe it just means you're really alive?
Not necessarily. I think it's just the process of how you go about the ups and downs, you know, is important. Because when you do hit the downs, are you like down? How are you dealing with being down? And when you hit the highs, how long can you keep the high?
Exactly.
You know?
Is it taking you out of the game? Or are you dealing with it powerfully?
Exactly.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yes.
It's all on how you view it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been good.
Okay.
Cool.